Two players return from injury and will be available for Manchester United's next game. Two other players could be available for the next game and injuries aren't considered to be serious. There's been a bit of a boost in that. There has been some setbacks and injuries. There has been some boosts. We're going to tell you the latest on all we know in regards to Manchester United injury updates. We're also going to talk about striker. Manchester United will sign a striker in the summer. Laurie Whitwell, Fabrizio Romano, every reliable source has said, look, strike is the priority. Joshua Zirkzee seen as a 10 by Ruben Amorim. Rasmus Højlund isn't particularly rated. Now, there's been links to Liam Delap, there's been links to Gyökeres, there's been links to Victor Osimhen, but Victor Osimhen in particular is heavily linked to United. He has a 60 million release clause. Gyökeres has a 58 million release clause. Victor Osimhen apparently open to Manchester United. Delap's also one to watch. What is the latest on the striker front? I'm going to tell you the truth about Manchester United, the summer plans, the strikers that they're looking at, the possibility of that, and more. We're also going to talk about a shocking stat which reveals that only Southampton have a lower conversion rate in the Premier League than United. The need for a striker is absolutely clear. And then we're going to talk about Chido, his role, and the truth about that, because Arsenal reporters keep trying to make out that he left Arsenal and went to Man United for money and all this rubbish. And they seem really obsessed with him when that was not the case. And we've got more updates on that, but also how he's continuing to make a big impression and impress the coaches at United. So, hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute news roundup, where we're going to get into all the transfer news, injury news, and other news and stories surrounding Manchester United and sum it up into a 10-minute video for you guys. If you do enjoy this video, please do go ahead and hit that like button, and feel free to subscribe down below if you're new. So the boost we've got in regards to injuries is Eriksen and Yoro expected to be available against Everton, so that's good. Yoro can obviously rotate in. Eriksen's an option to go in the sort of 10 role later on in the game, you know, potentially put Zirkzee up top, Eriksen as a 10 if Højlund had a bad game or something like that. It gives another option. I'm still worried about the pivot. Bruno and Casemiro did not work. Casemiro, yes, Bruno drifted wide and Casemiro had to do a lot of it on his own, but he was pretty awful. You know, do we take the risk with Seko Kone? I don't think they will. I'm surprised Scanlon wasn't called up, actually, out of all the players in terms of the 10 role as well, because he's got a little bit of experience playing first-team football. Morehouse could have played the 10. Amorim didn't want to risk him. He gave Chido only 3 minutes. We're very thin, and Amorim seems a bit reluctant to risk the youth. But it was said that in regards to Ugarte and Collier, we don't know if they're going to be about. They could be about. There's no news updates yet, but their injuries aren't expected to be serious. Hopefully, they are back in time for the Everton game, just to have the legs in midfield, at least one of them. The problem with Ugarte and Collier being out is them being out at the same time, because they're both legs. They're the only two players we've got with legs that can go in that pivot to go alongside Bruno. We need one of them at least in that midfield, which is a bit of a blow. Ahmad obviously out to the end of the season, might need surgery. Maino expected to be out for 6 weeks with a calf problem. No updates on Luke Shaw and Mason Mount. Luke Shaw hasn't started a Premier League game for Manchester United in a year now, apparently. And Mason Mount, who knows? But Mason Mount is expected to be on the road back. Luke Shaw was, and then he had another setback, which is annoying. I think if we can get Luke Shaw and Mason Mount to somewhat stay fit, if we can get, Maino back in 6 weeks, we can get Collier and Ugarte back soon. We've got something. Obviously, the Ahmad injury is a huge blow in attack, and we're really lacking firepower in attack. But yeah, I think the Ahmad injury is you know, it's just worse, isn't it? Let's be honest. But let's dive into other news stories and more. It was said that Manchester United are monitoring several strikers, and that was said by Fabrizio Romano. Now, we know that Delap, Osimhen, and Gyökeres are the ones that are constantly linked. There is rumours about Sesko, but I think he's Arsenal bound, and I don't think he's what we need. Laurie Whitwell also confirms the striker is a priority. We're also trying to wrap up a deal for Kenda as well before the window. Romano said that United are monitoring several strikers, but have still not reached out for Victor Osimhen's camp. But his release clause will be 75 million euros in July, which is about 60 million pounds. Potentially, you could even get that cheaper. You never know. And Manchester United recently sent scouts to Galatasaray to observe Victor Osimhen. So this is one to watch. This is a ready-made striker. I'd watch him. I'd watch Gyökeres. I'd watch Delap. But it has been confirmed that United will be looking at a striker. That is the priority, and that's going to be the focus ahead of the summer window. I think it's try and wrap a deal for Kenda up before the summer window, make some sales, go all out for a striker signing. And I think, you know, Victor Osimhen's one to watch. I think Delap, it depends on Ipswich getting relegated and the fee there. But it's very obvious. Man United want a striker. They're looking at Osimhen. They have looked at Gyökeres, but apparently he wants a Champions League club. Maybe win the Europa League. Maybe he comes. I'm not sure. Some sources say that Gyökeres wants Manchester United. He'd be open to Manchester United. Other sources saying that deal won't happen. But what we do know and the truth about the whole situation is United will spend money on a striker in the summer. Every source has said United are going to sign a striker in the summer. That is the truth. They don't know who will sign. They know who we're looking at. They don't know who we'll get, but they know that Manchester United will spend money on a striker in the summer. So let's actually get into some transfer news in regards to the striker position. Manchester United sent scouts to watch Victor Osimhen in action for Galatasaray on Monday. Osimhen did not disappoint as he netted a brace against Rizespor to move the Turkish Giants 6 points clear of Mourinho's Fenerbahce. He's doing well. Apparently, the only reason Victor Osimhen didn't join United in January is because of loyalty to Galatasaray. He said he'd stay there to the end of the season, is what some sources are claiming. Some other sources are claiming we have a pre-agreement with Osimhen. He wants to come, but these aren't the most reliable sources. There's a lot of unreliable sources saying United went for him in January, but he had to stay loyal to Galatasaray. He wants Manchester United. There's an agreement there. United are willing to pay his release clause. There's a lot of noise going about around Victor Osimhen, but not much of it is credible. The most credible thing was said by Romano, and that was that we like him, we're looking at him, but we've not reached out to his camp. His release clause is 75 million euros. That's what we know from Fabrizio Romano. So let's talk about other news, because it's very obvious that Man United wanted Harry Kane, and Man United haven't signed that big striker in years. Benny McCarthy actually said that there would have that bringing sort of Harry Kane in and Rasmus to learn from him would have probably been the best thing. He said that probably would have been the best thing for Rasmus if he had someone like Harry Kane involved. So yeah, Harry Kane was Ten Hag's number one target. Eric Ten Hag really wanted him. Benny McCarthy speaks about how much Eric Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane that summer. In the summer of 2023, Harry Kane was the number one target. Kane was the prime target, but obviously the price tag was an issue because he'd have been leaving Spurs for United, so a few extra £1 million were added to the price tag had he gone to a Premier League rival, and which meant we couldn't get Harry Kane, and then we got Højlund. But I think Man United were hoping they could get Højlund for 40 million, but Atalanta saw us coming in and doubled his price essentially, and then get Harry Kane for 60 million, and that's probably what United would have wanted to do, but they realised they couldn't do that, and they realised that they won't be able to get Harry Kane. I think Rasmus Højlund, had he been a £40 million player, and had he been learning alongside Harry Kane, it's a very different future for Rasmus. But the fact that we spent 72 million on him because the people at the top of this club are idiots, and he was meant to be the main man when he was Atalanta's third choice striker, is absolutely ridiculous, because we need a ready-made striker now. Because if you look at the stat here, Manchester United have a shot conversion rate of just 8.4% in the Premier League this season. Only Southampton or rock bottom in the Premier League have a lower rate. I mean, we are 15th, but we could be at least 11th if we could finish our chances. We don't deserve to be much higher than 11th, but if we'd have finished our chances, we'd have won a couple more games and got a few more points than we do. That Garnacho miss versus Tottenham yesterday was one of the worst misses of the season. I also still think back to the time that Dalot miss versus West Ham was atrocious as well. We've had some atrocious misses this season. I think Xerxes missed a few chances as well. But Garnacho has been quite wasteful this season. I think a lot of it is confidence. Now, talking to someone that is clinical, let's talk about Obi Martin. Sources around the first team speak of Chido Obi's humbleness and the impression he made on Ruben Amorim and the staff across the last few weeks. The time period he's really stepped up and become more of a factor to the senior side, been involved in training, got 3 minutes off the bench, really impressing the under 21s, but shown the personality, attitude, humbleness. But it's not just that he's scoring goals, his hold-up play is good, his decision-making is good. Chido looks like quite a developed, mature player for his age. He's only 17, you can't expect him to come in and be prime Thierry Henry in that Manchester United side. But this is someone that could potentially push Rasmus, because I think that Rasmus is a better player than what he's shown this season, but what Rasmus has shown this season is quite poor, and I think that, one of the youngsters like Chido could give him a run for his money. Now, Arsenal keep obsessing and obsessing and obsessing over Chido because their ego just can't understand why he left Arsenal when they're at one of their better periods, for Man United one of their worst periods, and that's because Man United are no one year in Luis Skelly playing now, but before that, Man United have a much better track record of giving youngsters minutes. And actually, apparently Arsenal made a lucrative contract offer to Chido, with Mikel Arteta personally intervening and outlining his vision, including first-team training and under-21 matches where possible. However, it proved vain. He wanted United. He saw a better and more direct pathway into the first team. We didn't offer him more money than Arsenal did. He chose us over Arsenal because he was thinking about his future and path into the first team. So remember that Arsenal sources won't put out that information. They will only put out information that suits their agenda, that he left for money. But we all know he left because he wanted a better pathway into the first team. And he probably would get minutes for Arsenal now with the state they're in. But he's here, he's at Man United, he's happy he's here, and we also got Heaven as well. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. See you next time. Bye.